Right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling one of history's most intense power struggles. We're talking Moses and Aaron versus Pharaoh.
Yeah. And the backdrop. Ancient Egypt, of course.
Couldn't be a bigger stage for this. We're looking at Exodus chapters 7 through 9, where, let's just say, things get biblical.
And dramatic. Don't forget dramatic.
Oh, absolutely. Plagues, magic, divine showdowns, you name it. But what we're really digging into here, it's not just the spectacle of it all.
Right.
It's the power dynamics, the nuance. How'd you summarize that?
Well, I think we often picture this whole thing as just good versus evil, a simple face-off. But this story, way more complex. This is about leadership, what faith really means, even the nature of power itself.
So much more to unpack there. But first, let's set the scene for folks. We've got Moses, right, and his brother Aaron. They're about to walk right up to Pharaoh.
Big ask.
Huge. And the message, definitely not one he wants to hear. Let my people go. Simple, but not so simple.
Not at all. Because you got to remember, Pharaoh wasn't just any king,
Right, he wasn't just ruling.
In ancient Egypt, Pharaoh, he was a god king, basically. Imagine the guts just to approach this guy, let alone defy him.
It'd be like, I don't even know, like telling the most powerful person you could possibly think of today that their authority, meaningless.
Exactly. And on top of that, God doesn't just send Moses and Aaron in empty-handed. Oh, no, there are instructions.
Oh, yeah. And not just any instructions.
Exodus 7.1, God tells Moses, I've made you like a god to Pharaoh and Aaron, his mouthpiece, basically.
Oh, the stakes just got real. It's like God saying, don't worry, I got this, and you've got my authority now, go get him.
Empowering.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then there's Exodus 7.3, and this is where it gets tricky for me. God says he's going to harden Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah. That throws a wrench in things, doesn't it?
It does. On the one hand, you've got God empowering Moses, but on the other, seems like the ending's already written. What do you make of that?
$1 million question, right. It's one of the most debated parts of Exodus, for sure. Gets into free will, destiny, the whole deal. Some folks, theologically speaking, they see it as God directly controlling Pharaoh like a chess piece.
Others don't.
Others, they argue God's more like allowing Pharaoh's true colors to show. He was already prideful, right? And so it's more about revealing that than dictating it.
It's a theological knot, that's for sure. And honestly, it makes you think about God's role in our own lives, free will versus destiny. But before we go too far down that path.
Right, good point.
Let's get back to the drama at Pharaoh's palace, because things are about to get magical, literally.
Literally. Staffs turning into snakes. Talk about a power move.
It's straight out of a movie. Exodus 7.8:13, Aaron throws down his staff and boom, serpent. But here's the thing. Pharaoh's magicians, they weren't messing around either.
Oh, they had some tricks up their sleeves, for sure.
They match him. So now it's like a magic battle.
Right. But, and this is important, this wasn't just a show. Staffs back then, especially for someone like Pharaoh, those were symbols of authority.
Like a king's scepter today.
Exactly.
So when Aaron's staff swallows the other staffs.
Statement made. That's God saying, my power tops yours, even your best tricks. But, and here's the thing that gets me. Pharaoh, still hard-hearted. So what's the point of this victory if nothing changes? Makes you think, right? Like even today, when someone tries to one-up you, assert their dominance, even when they're so obviously in the wrong.
It's like, what's the point?
This story, it's saying true power, real authority, it shows itself, even when it's challenged.
So it wasn't just about the staffs then?
Nope. That display, just the intro, God knew Pharaoh would dig in. That's where the plagues come in. And not just to punish. Okay, this was about shaking things up, Pharaoh, all of Egypt.
Okay, so we're talking Nile turning to blood, frogs everywhere, gnats, flies, the works.
Oh, and it gets worse. Livestock dying, boils, hailstorms, like a greatest hits of stuff you don't want to experience.
Not ever. But these weren't random, right?
Nope. Each one purposeful. Not just to mess with their lives, but to target what they believed. Think about the Nile turning to blood. I mean, yeah, gross, but...
It was their thing. The Nile. That was everything to them.
Life or death, right. They even had Happy, this god, they thought he controlled the Nile, like literally.
So when their sacred river turns to blood?
Not just inconvenient, it's attacking their beliefs at the core. Shows God's power over what they thought was untouchable.
And it wasn't just the Nile, was it? Each plague. It's like
mantling them bit by bit.
Yeah. Frogs in their homes, that's personal space invaded. Gnats, flies, I can't even imagine.
Oh, it'd drive you crazy. And that's the whole point. It's meant to get under their skin, make them question everything like, Okay, Pharaoh, you really want to keep fighting this.
Multiple messages all at once, their lives, beliefs, even just being able to function. But Pharaoh, he keeps hardening his heart. It's like with each plague, he doubles down.
Which, that's people, right?
So stubborn.
It's like, why do we do that? Cling to our pride, our opinions, even when it's clear we're wrong.
Like he's almost afraid to admit he's wrong.
Yeah, there's that saying, the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you mad, And I think Pharaoh, maybe it wasn't just stubbornness, maybe fear. Like, what if he admitted defeat? What happens to his power then? His whole identity.
Tower does that though, right? Blinds you. You dig in your heels even when, deep down.
Oh, totally. We've all been there. Maybe not facing down plagues or anything.
Right. But those times you just refuse to budge, even when you should. Reminds me of that story that the emperor's new clothes.
Nobody wants to be the one to say, hey, I don't see it.
Especially not with that much on the line. Pharaoh, it wasn't just looking silly. It was everything.
And that's the core of this, I think. Not just some old story, but human nature. Pride versus humility, Wanting control, but maybe there's something bigger.
Pharaoh had a hard time with that one.
Yeah.
It took some serious, really serious wake-up calls to get his attention.
Even then, it's tough to say. When he seemed to give in a little, was he really repentant or just trying to make the plagues stop?
Good question. That's what makes this so interesting. No easy answer. Makes you think about faith, free will, what we're responsible for versus...
It's already decided.
Right. Powerful stuff. This story, it sticks with you. And it's not like we're dealing with snakes and staffs every day, but...
But the core of it, that struggle, it's universal.
So Moses, Pharaoh, the plagues, the big questions about God. So much packed into just these few chapters of Exodus.
Barely scratching the surface, honestly. There's the journey through the desert, the 10 Commandments, the tabernacle. It's all connected.
And still relevant today. Leadership, faith, freedom, it's all there.
Powerful reminder that even the biggest journeys, they can start with a simple message.
Let my people go.
Exactly.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.